with those attendees who are present. And we are looking at a TransactionDesk Pro account. TransactionDesk Pro, you see in the top left-hand corner, says Pro, as opposed to the different views. One of those views is the Lite view. If you follow me to the right corner, TransactionDesk Lite. Same account. You have one TransactionDesk account, but just a couple different views into that account. The Lite view is a less is more approach. So just commonly used features distilled down to the most commonly used features of TransactionDesk to reduce the number of choices and options. If Lite is less is more, then Pro is more is better. All of the transaction management features to manage that sale process online through our web-based application. So we're focusing on Pro. We are going to start a new transaction file. I'm going to click here on Transactions. I typically work from the second row of links, Transactions, clicking there, center, shading to the right, second row of links, clicking on Transactions. Because we're going to take a quick look at a transaction file, make sure everyone understands what a transaction file is, what a transaction file does, and just to get started, making sure that you at least have that sense of understanding of a transaction. So clicking on that transaction file name, hopefully this also reinforces that you can come back into transaction files at any time to work with those files, to update them, revise them, or take appropriate actions with your online files. We really do suggest that you work with transaction files. You really can replace those manila folders filled with paper pages with online transaction files filled with digital forms and documents. So here's our file: address, city, state, zip, list price. We add some detail. This account benefits from MLS import, which we'll see those integrations here in a moment. I always refer to these red bullet points on the left-hand side of the screen, refer to them as the dashboard. So all of these red bullet points are elements of our transaction file. We are looking at the overview page, transaction overview, but also dates page, transaction history page, general information. So these are all pages of our transaction file where we can add content to this specific transaction. You can see Authentisign is in that list, so we can link directly to our Authentisign account, which we will as we go through. Forms and documents that we have associated to this account, tasks and calendar, and those features. So you can see that here, documents and a fax back cover sheet. Forms, the forms and contracts that we have also attached to this transaction. Forms, online fillable. Type up your forms and contracts using Instanet forms within our transaction file. Tasks, the workflow that you can add into your new transaction file. Tasks that need to be completed as you go through that sale process. Contacts to our transaction. The parties to our transaction file. We add the detail to our transactions, property information, contacts, dates. We add that content to build our transaction files. That content will autofill the forms that we attach. So we build our transactions to autocomplete our form fields, saving time, energy, and effort, saving redundant data entry, increasing consistencies and efficiencies as we go through that sale process. So that's what a transaction file is. Going to go back to that transactions link again, top center of the screen, shading there to the right, those second row of links, clicking on transactions. We just reviewed an existing transaction. What we're going to do now is create a new transaction. Create a new transaction file, perhaps for that new prospect, that new customer that you want to turn into a client. Because I would really recommend that you start your transaction files at that first substantive conversation. If you get a referral call or you're at phone duty and you take a phone call or you get a ping off of some of your marketing, you want to start a file at that substantive conversation. So again, back to our transaction look. One phrase I do want to point out, try to do this through each of our webinar sessions. I would like to. It is a very consistent phrase that you will see throughout all the different views in TransactionDesk. I would like to. And it is always in association with these drop-down triangles, these upside-down triangles, if you will. By clicking on those triangles, it shows the options or list of values available in that menu. So you can work with those values or choose which option that you would like to work with. we're choosing Create New Transaction. That is the choice that we are going to select and click on the Go arrow. Clicking on that Go arrow is going to take us to this kind of first start page where we can choose how we want to start our transaction. The only requirement is to give our transaction a name. All the other features on this page are optional features to start adding content to your new transaction file. The only requirement is the name. Majority of you will have the import from MLS option. Probably 3 out of 4, 75, 80% of you will have that option or that integration included within your TransactionDesk account. So that's exactly what it gives you the opportunity there. Import from MLS, pull in MLS detail into your new transaction file. We are going to use the option to populate from a transaction template. So all we're really doing here is right now, top left-hand side of the screen, this little blue dot is next to New Transaction. We are simply going to transfer that blue dot to populate from a transaction template. We're going to choose that option to start our new transaction file because I've created templates and I'm going to use them to start this new file to save me some time, energy, and effort. Is there really any difference? The steps are exactly the same, whether you're starting from a template or starting from scratch, if you will. The difference, when you start from a template, you have predetermined forms and transaction file content added in. If you start from scratch, if you start from new, you don't. You manually add it in. So the templates save time, save energy, save effort when starting that new file. So who's our client going to be? I'm going to stick with Will Williams. Not a condo prospect this time. He is a multifamily listing prospect. So however you like to name your files. It's free-form text, so you type it in the way that you like to name your files. Best thing I could do is tell you to be consistent in your file naming. So I like to use the client's name, last name first, and then the type of client. You decide how you like to name. However you put it in the top of that manila folder that you do today, type that into your transaction file name online. So here's some templates that we created for my account. Different types of transactions require different types of forms. That's the only difference. TransactionDesk doesn't look at different clients or contacts differently. It sees them all as the same. You see them differently because when I say multifamily listing prospect, automatically you start thinking of forms that you would need for that type of client. That's the only difference in the type of clients that you have is the forms that you need to execute their relationships, agency agreements and relationships, purchase and sale contracts, or listing agreements. It's just the different forms. So for this example, we're going to use that listing template, multifamily listing template. I'm going to select that action, and then I'm going to choose myself as the selling agent. I'm going to identify myself so that my broker and myself will be added to this transaction. We'll auto-populate those form fields. We will use the wizard. Just to be consistent, using the wizard, walking through to add some starting detail to our transaction file. Again, whether you're starting from scratch or whether you're starting from a template, you have the opportunity to use the wizard to walk through and add additional content. It's all about adding content to your transaction. Bottom right corner, clicking on Start Transaction. So don't worry if you're like, oh, I don't have any templates, I don't understand, this is confusing. Just go to New, give it a name, and click Start. The steps are exactly the same. Mine will have content added in because I'm using a template. Yours won't. You'll just go through and add them in manually. You'll import forms. You'll type up contacts and things like that. So it's just a matter of adding content automatically to our new file. I'm doing that by starting from a template. If you start a new, you just don't have that content automatically added. You manually add it in. You walk through the steps to add that content to your transaction file, which we'll do right now. We're still going to walk through the steps to add in the content. There's a little pop-up message that you will receive each time you start a new transaction. Unless you opt out of this message, you can click on the checkbox to do not show this message again. But this message merely states, think of your transaction file like a replacement of that manila folder. The wizard is just an opportunity, first run through your file to add in content, You can save and exit from the wizard at any time and go directly to your new file. So that's really the content of this message. So if you don't want to see it again, click the checkbox to not show this message again and click Close. You'll never see that pop up again. So here's the property information page. And again, we're just going to add content. I'm going to add a little bit, but I'm going to import from the MLS to pull in this property information. So I'm just going to scroll down the screen here to show you the features that you can add in. There are no required fields, so please do type in the content that you have, but they're not required. If you benefit from it, if it's going to autofill your forms, add it in. Otherwise, click on Next. Clicking that Next button will take us to the next step within the wizard. As we go through this demonstration, please do not hesitate to type your questions using the chat section of the GoToTraining sidebar. If that GoToTraining sidebar has collapsed against the right-hand side of your screen, you will see a little sidebar. At the top of that sidebar, you'll see a red block with a white arrow. By clicking that arrow, it will expand that GoToTraining sidebar. The bottom section of that sidebar is the chat section. By typing in your question to that chat section, we'll be reviewing those and answering them as we go through. So please do just type them in, and we will be reviewing them and answering them as we move through this demonstration. If that sidebar is now just a big nuisance taking up the better part of the right-hand side of your screen, please do click on that red block with white arrow again. It will collapse it against the right-hand side of your screen. So dates, we're looking at the transaction dates now. Do we have these dates? Yeah, maybe we have a list date, or at least we want to add it in. I'm going to add it because I want to show you the autofill features. If you don't have it, just skip it. Again, there's no required fields, so you don't have to add content. You're not required to add any content. Whoops, I hit Next instead of expiration. I meant to click on that little calendar icon next to expiration there, and just to yield that calendar menu so that I could put in the appropriate dates as we go forward here. The Next button will take us to the next step within our wizard. So Next will take us to step 4, Back will take us to step 2. So clicking on Next, this is where we can now add contacts to our transaction file. We're adding this content so that the content will autofill our forms. I've been added in. My broker's been added in. We've been adding a selling agent, selling broker. Placeholder. Well, what's placeholder? Well, it's a feature that I added to my transaction template. By clicking here, I added it to my template so that I could easily update that content. So I would just add Will Williams here. I think it just dawned on me that I added myself to the wrong side of the transaction file. Will Williams. So let me add Will in here, and then we'll make any necessary adjustments. So does Will live in the property? Well, there's no address there yet, but if he did, I could import it in from the property information page. Do I have Will as a contact in my database? If this is the first time I've talked to him, the first substantive conversation, he's probably not in there yet. I'm going to add him in now. So I added his cell phone number. I got a cell phone number and an email address. Features of contacts. Within your Pro view, you can grant your contacts access as participants to your online file. You can give them access to your online transaction file. You can give them access to just the specific features that you want them to have access to. So it's a nice way to get your contacts to participate in your online transaction file. I'm going to add Will to my contacts as well. So two things are going to happen. When I click on the Save button in the bottom right corner, not only is he going to save to my transaction file, he's also going to be saved to my contact database. So I am completing two actions by clicking Save Contact, add it to my transaction file, included in my contact database. Contact database, you're asking yourself right now? Top left corner, second row of links, contacts. See that contact database? You can save your contacts to that online database, access to them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, But more than that, insert them into your transaction files, insert them into outbound email, outbound fax, and those services within your TransactionDesk account. So here's what I just noticed. I chose selling agent rather than listing agent. So let's see what I should do here. I don't think that I could switch them over that easily to listing. So what I may choose to do here is delete and re-add them in as that listing agent. So not ideal, but c'est la vie. I'm going to delete them out, and I'm going to re-add them into the correct side of the transaction. Pays to pay attention when I'm doing this, so I could avoid these instances, but that's all right. I would like to add new transaction, listing agent. Click on continue. And I could probably add myself from the, let's just add myself in here real quick. And on email, yeah, I'm going to add my email, and that looks good. Save that content. Yeah, I'm just adding some content just to make sure that I get added into this transaction file. One more here, clicking on go. We'll add that listing broker. I apologize for having to go through this steps, but every once in a while, even I do make mistakes. I know it seems unlikely, but it's true. So where I thought I was saving myself time, I ended up costing myself a little bit of time. So, all right. Time is of the essence, saving those contacts. Do I have additional contacts? Is there a second seller, husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, parents, children? If there are, we want to add them in separately. We want to add them in as separate contacts to our transaction file so that each will autofill those corresponding fields on the forms. So we add them in separately to autofill those fields. I'm just going to move on here, clicking on next. We're suggesting that Will is the only seller in this transaction. Maybe he's the only one we know about right now. Maybe he is the sole owner on that deed. So here's the value of using templates, starting your files from templates. My forms were automatically added. If you come to this step and it says none or it's blank, it's okay. It's the same steps. I would like to add new forms. Click on the go arrow, because what the go arrow is going to do is take us to our forms library and allow us to add forms from that library to our transaction file. While I'm typing in here for a moment. Can we add corporate files to TransactionDesk? You can add any types of files that you would like to your TransactionDesk account. You can add files for any type of reason that you would benefit from. Here is the forms library. First thing that you'll see is individual forms. So these are the forms. Again, this is a nationally broadcast webinar, so the forms library might not look exactly the same as yours. The form names may be a little different. But again, you will access the forms that are associated to your account. Basically, the state forms where you practice, the local association forms, perhaps even your custom office forms. Have access to all those different forms and forms library. So you want to go through and select the forms to add to your transaction file. If they're agency forms or listing forms, you can expand those folders. You can select and press and hold the control key, the CTRL key on your keyboard to select those additional forms. Go through and add the ones that you want to include to this transaction file. Well, what are these quick start groups at the top? What is that? By expanding that, you can also group together your forms so that you can quickly select multiple forms simultaneously. Quick start groups, content that you add to your TransactionDesk account. You create the groups so that when you come across those sales situations, you can quickly add those additional forms to your new transaction files or to your existing transaction files. Again, we're walking through the wizard. This is the first step to add forms. It's certainly not the last. It is the first. I can show multiple places. I will show multiple places where you can add new forms or add additional forms to this transaction file. This is just the first step. Think of the wizard as that first run through. You know, you're like, okay, well, I know that they're this type of client. I know I'm going to need these forms, so we're just going to add them in for now and get it started. As other forms become required through that sale process, simply add the additional forms to your existing file. You have those opportunities to always add forms to your transaction file. As they become required, you can add them in. So select them from the list, use the Control key, press and hold the Control key to select multiple, then add selected forms to your file. I'm canceling out because I've got my forms already added in. But you can see, first place, there's that phrase, I would like to add forms. So you can add forms from here. And now we're just going to kind of click here, continue to click on Next. I want to point out there is a fax-back cover sheet. When you have TransactionDesk Pro, you have unlimited online document storage and unlimited toll-free faxing as part of that TransactionDesk account. A fax-back cover sheet is automatically added to every new transaction file that you create. Storage is available to store those signed, ratified contracts, those loan payoff amounts, all of that documentation that you receive, surveys and seller's disclosures, home inspections and title commitments, final settlement statements, all of that documentation that you receive can be reloaded back to your online transaction file and saved for that state-required retention period. These are the values of working online with your TransactionDesk account to manage that sale process online, to keep all of those elements of your file together through the one online transaction. So you can upload, and maybe we'll come back and see how to add these features back into your online account, but simply upload them. If you have them saved digitally in the bottom center of the screen, simply upload the documents. If you have paper pages, use fax-back cover sheets to fax those paper pages directly to your online account. Technology that's available to reload those signed, ratified, and contracts and all of that other documentation that you receive throughout the sale process. This demonstration, we want to focus on just getting it out the door. We want to get the forms and contracts prepared and delivered for digital signatures. So clicking here on Next. Going to working with others, just to point out that you can share your files with other members of your real estate office. This is if you work in a team, maybe you work in a listing team, maybe you have a business partner that you guys share your files. You can share your files with that person or group of people within your office. This is content that you add to your TransactionDesk account. You first create the share, and then you can choose to share your files. Just because you create the share doesn't mean they're automatically added in. They show up in the list that you can choose from. You can see under My Available Shares there, you can see it's grayed out, but it says Business Partner, and if I want to share, I can select that action, and now it's available to me. But again, just because I did doesn't mean I have to. And so we'll just keep moving on, just going through the downhill run here through these last few steps to speak to them as options within your TransactionDesk Pro, because these are features now, especially this, tasks, features that you will not see in any other view or other account types within TransactionDesk. Only the TransactionDesk Pro view gives you the option to manage the workflow, the tasks and calendar events within your sale file. So this is the transaction management portion, or another transaction management portion. If you have those office checklists, you can manage them online through your online transaction file. It's one of the values of working with TransactionDesk Pro, managing that sale process and all of those tasks and to-do items. You can see that some of our tasks already have due dates. So that should also further emphasize that, yes, I can add the task and I can base it on a milestone date within my transaction file, because these are going to be due a couple days after the listing date. I'm going to have to get that lockbox out there, get the yard sign placed, and so forth. So manage those to-do lists through your online transaction file. This is the only place you'll see it. Full TransactionDesk account, Pro View. Save and exit. Exiting from the transaction wizard. Clicking on that button is merely is going to exit us from the wizard. Pardon my mouse here while it bounces around a little bit. Just reviewing some questions, make sure. Collapsing that go-to training sidebar. So my mouse just kind of jumped all over the place, but I was actually doing something there. So transaction overview page. Hopefully this one looks kind of similar or familiar to this point. We looked at one already. If you opt out of the wizard or save and exit from the wizard at any time, this is the page that you come to, this overview page, so that we can continue to work with this sale file. The wizard just gets us started. Add the content that you know right out of the gate. The file is where we want to come to each subsequent time to manage that sale process, to update the content, to revise it, to add to it. So this is, you always want to work with your transaction file. One thing that I'm going to do, just to highlight the MLS integrations that we have, and to show you the not so easily found feature. It's not the word I was looking for, but I went with it. There's this phrase here from the overview page. Remember, this is the transaction overview, pointing to the top left corner, red bullet points, the dashboard. This is the overview page that we're looking at. I would like to drop down arrow, clicking there yields this menu. It's a great menu with a lot of different features to work with. The one I want to focus on right now, import data. I'm going to select that action, click on the go arrow, because I want to just at least highlight the opportunity to import from the import from the MLS into our existing transaction. This could really come in handy, especially when you're representing buyers, because you're not going to have an MLS ID right out of the gate. You're going to be out searching for properties. You're going to identify that property, and then you're going to want to import that property into your existing transaction file. So good opportunity there. And you might be saying to yourself, well, this is a listing, and I don't have a listing ID for it. But that doesn't mean there isn't one in the MLS already. Could there be an expired one, a withdrawn one, a terminated, maybe even a sold? If we have access to that data, you can import any of those statuses into your transaction file. So importing data, clicking there, right-hand side of the screen, kind of the middle right-hand side, import data. I chose my provider. I chose the appropriate property type. I pasted in my MLS ID, and now I'm importing data into this new transaction file. I think those are pretty common these days. Withdrawn, expired, or terminated are probably three MLS status that you could pull from to get property data from the MLS into your transaction file for a new listing. Now you might have to clean it up a little bit for listing agent and broker and things like that, and kind of touch it up a little bit, but otherwise the opportunity is there to bring in that content. So let's see what we brought in. Content is there, address, city, state, zip. That content's been added to our transaction file. I don't have to type it. I mean, basically that's what it comes down to. I pull it in so I don't have to type it. Now I never have to type the address into any of my form fields because it's there. It's going to populate in there for me. So let's go there now. From the dashboard on the left, clicking on Instant F Forms. We're going to type up these forms and we're going to go prepare them for signatures and initials. First step, before I go to Forms Editor, before I go in to start typing them up, auto-populate update forms. Bottom center of the screen, clicking on that action. I'm going to first make sure that I get the content. You build your transaction file details. Auto-populate your forms with those details. For address, for buyers and contacts and sellers and dates and all of that content, to auto-complete your form fields. That's the way the data travels from your transaction file to your forms. On-screen confirmation, all forms were successfully updated. Clicking on the form name, exclusive right to sell agreement. Clicking on that form name, we're going to launch that form in Forms Editor. We're going to go through, we're going to type up this form. We're going to make sure that all the required and optional fields are completed. And we'll see that all of the light blue fields are the required or optional fields. Incident Forms doesn't require you to add content, but your association does, or your state does, or your broker does. So we're not requiring you to add this content. It's required in the terms of the listing agreement. So nice feature about the transaction file. All of our forms are here. Right-hand side, this column, when I complete one, I can quickly go to the next, click on the form to go to the next, to the next. So nice that they're all here. What's even nicer is until I need them, I can collapse that window against the right-hand side of the screen. Give me more visibility, if you will, into this particular form. So all these light blue fields, they may look gray on your screen. They are the fillable fields. And typically they take both alpha and numeric characters. ABCs, 1, 2, 3s, however you want to type them in. So a lot of information came through. Our broker, our name, our buyer. So that came through from our transaction file. List price, the terms, where did that come from? From my transaction template. One of the great values to me of the transaction template, when I identify the forms, I can fill them out. I can pre-fill them with pretty standard information. Could I change it if I need to? Sure I can. But otherwise, it gives me that guideline to work from. I type it in once in my transaction template. I start my file from the template. The form is added and pre-filled with that content. Address, legal description, that came over from my MLS import. Type or paste standard provisions. There are no restrictions from copying and pasting into your form fields. Pardon me for one moment. So that's a nice feature as well, being able to paste into your form fields. Anything you can copy to your computer clipboard, so to speak, you can paste into your online forms. So some fields here have been checked. Again, reminder that you can change them if it's required, but you don't have to. I mean, obviously, you pre-filled it because 9 times, 8 times out of 10, it's going to be that feature. So. Effective date shall continue till midnight. Add that in. Boom, boom, boom. Again, just picking the content from our calendar pickers here. Scrolling through, commissions have been preset. I can change it if necessary for this client. I realize that all these features are negotiable. I understand that. I understand that every one of these checkboxes is a negotiable item that can be negotiated with the seller. That's fine, but 9 times out of 10, the lockbox is going to be on the property, and the for sale sign is going to be in the yard. If it's not for this particular one, I could change it, but otherwise, I'm just going to keep going through. Complete all of the required and optional fields. Save your changes that you make to the form. Top left-hand corner, I can save my changes using the Save Diskette. One other drop-down window that we'll look at. File, drop-down, save as a hard drive, print to paper. So these are all features of your Instinet forms, so you can work with your online forms and documents. All right, scrolling down to the bottom here, I think we're right at the bottom of our listing agreement. We can, so let's just talk about copying and pasting here real quick. Let me just grab some of this content just to show that anything that you can copy to your computer's clipboard, so to speak, you can paste to your online form. So I'm there, cursor's blinking, right-clicking to paste. There are no restrictions from copying and pasting. Scrolling to the bottom, executed this day, there's my name, there's my client's name. We'll get those signatures here in just a minute. So the more content that I add, the more content that's auto-filled. Now I didn't save because I want to show you that if I forget, I'm in the top right-hand corner now expanding, clicking on that plus sign to expand that form list. I can click to the next form. So now I need to go to that customer information form. Clicking on that form name, I will be prompted to save my changes. Do you want to save your changes? Yes, I do. So again, even if you forget to make a save, you will be prompted if you try to leave the form without saving. Incident forms will actually do an autosave after the first 5 minutes, and every 5 minutes thereafter it will perform an autosave of the content that you've added to your transaction. Alright, so go through, complete all of the required and optional fields on all of the forms and contracts using autofill from our transaction file, pre-fill from our template, and just good old-fashioned typing it up to complete all those required and optional fields. When you've finished, in this example, we're going to use Authentisign to prepare them now. So I'm going to exit from Form Editor. Center of the screen, top center, exit from Form Editor. Just before I go, let me point out one step here, the transaction dropdown. So from within our Form Editor, transaction dropdown, add new form. Certainly want to point out where you can add forms to your transaction. Whoops, I have 6 forms here, but I forgot to add that lead-based paint, or I forgot to add that mandatory homeowners. I can add new forms or additional forms to my transaction file right here from Forms Editor. Transaction, add new form, access to the forms library. I can select the form I need. The form will be opened up in Forms Editor and pre-filled with my transaction file information. So a nice spot here to add in that new form to our existing transaction file. Transaction, add new form. Now I'm exiting from the Form Editor. We definitely wanted to point that out. So we had a chance there to add forms from our during the wizard. We had a chance there to add from Forms Editor. And also here from the instannet forms of our transaction, I would like to add new forms. So all these different places to get the needed forms into your transaction file. So now we've typed them up. Now they're completed. Now they're ready for signatures and initials. So from the dashboard, red bullet point, Authentisigns. Clicking on Authentisigns, we're now going to prepare. We're going to create a signing event and prepare these required forms for signing. So now we've logged into our Authentisign. Nice feature, one platform, one account. All of these services are incorporated into the one account, no usernames or passwords required, and so forth. It's all part of one account. Clicking on Create New Signing, we are going to import our transaction file detail to start and work with this signing. So to create a blank, well, just that. It's just a blank signing that you add in all your detail manually. We are going to select Will from our transaction list and click on Continue. Just like using a transaction template, how it added content to our new transaction file, the importing of the transaction does the same thing. Same exact steps to start blank or import from a file. And we're just going to call this the Will Williams. We'll call it the listing agreement signing. Name it how you are going to identify it so you can come back to it and recognize it from any others within your list. So we're going to use the inline signing. This is a linear order type. So we have our first signing participant. They'll go through their steps. Once they complete, it will be released to the second signing participant and go through the steps in that linear order, as opposed to simul-sign, which will shotgun the signing to all of the signing participants who can then sign in any particular order. And as they complete, the documents will come back and Authentisign will merge them into one final signed document. So we're going to use the participant linear order sign inline. We can set expiration dates. Again, think of each signing as a unique event. So we can expire this event. We can create new signings with the same forms and contracts, but this unique signing event would expire. The blue Next button, hopefully that's becoming pretty familiar now too. Top right-hand side of the screen, clicking on Next. A couple steps of a signing wizard, 5 in all. So the first one is giving it a name and choosing a signing option, inline signing. Now we're going to add our participants. This is what it'll look like. If you create blank, you'll see nothing. Because we are importing from our file, it's showing us the contacts that we added to our transaction file. I'm going to select Will. Yes, he is a signing participant. He will be a signer. He will have initial and signatures that he will need to click to accept. Myself as well. I'm going to add myself in as a signer. because I'm going to have initial and signature blocks required for me. On those listing agreements, I will be required to at least sign it. So I'm going to add these contacts to our new signing. We can add participants as well. If you're creating blank, if you're starting from scratch, if you will, you can see it's kind of grayed out now with you. It's add new participant. All you have to do is click on that button. It's going to allow us to add our participants. So we are going to do that. We're going to add 2 here real quick. First signing participant is going to be my broker. I'm going to call him Bob Broker, because I want Bob to review this. And we're going to give him the account demos email address. He is a reviewer. He is a listing broker. And I'm going to save that participant. Bob is going to be part of this signing, but he's not going to add signatures initials. He's going to review the contract for consistency and accuracy. We're going to add one more. Add new participant. Clicking there, big circle to the center of the screen. We are going to add Tammy title, because Tammy is going to be our title officer. And as soon as everyone completes their signing, she is going to get a copy of the final signed ratified contract. She has no other participation in the signing other than Tammy will get a copy of the final document. And we'll just leave her as other and save that participant. So these are the participant types that you can add. Signers, who will be required to click to accept signatures and initials. Reviewers, who have access to review the signing while it's in progress. And CC only, they will get a copy of that final document. We can order, especially in this, our inline. I'm going to switch myself and Bob Broker. I'm going to make Bob, I'm going to click on the green arrow to move him up in the signing order. So will sign first. When he's complete, it will release to Bob. Bob will review it to make sure I did it correct. And then he will accept it, and then I will add my signatures and initials to that. Once we're all complete, we all get a final copy, and Tammy will get a copy as well. So add your signing participants, clicking on Next. So again, whether they're signing, they're actually adding signatures and initials. Whether they're reviewing, maybe it's a witness, maybe it's somebody to that type of participant, maybe it's your broker, and so forth. Add them in, reviewing the contracts. Carbon copy. Maybe a loan officer, in this case a title officer, who we want to include in our signing document. So let's just pick one of here. So from our list, here are all the forms that we had added to our transaction. We can choose from the list of the ones that we want to add in. For this example, and creeping up on our time allotment here, I'm just going to choose one from the list, our exclusive right to sell. If I want to select them all, I certainly could. At the top left-hand corner, form document, I could select them all. Most of you will. When you do, you will select them all. I'm merely selecting one to move forward with time is of the essence. I'm going to add my documents to the signing. Because that's just one way, right? Those are just the documents that we had attached to our transaction. Any forms or documents we had attached to our transaction file. But look at all those other blue bullet points there at the top. We can upload a file. So if we have a document saved locally on our desktops or laptops, we can upload them in. If we were working with individual forms, we can select from the forms library to pull those completed forms in. If we have documents saved in our doc box, if we want to fax paper pages in, if we want to email multiple documents, these are all different ways to get documents into our signing. I would say probably the most used, other than pulling in your completed forms, is to upload files. So let's choose that one. Upload a file, because you might have some documents saved locally on your computer. Maybe it's an office disclosure that you need that's not part of your forms library. You might want to upload that in. Maybe it's some other booklet or pamphlet or something that you want to make available or add to this signing. So add file, that little plus sign there, center of the screen, shading to the left a little bit. We're going to add file to this signing. We're adding it or uploading it from our local computer, our offline. So let me just choose one. And it doesn't have to be a PDF. It can be a Word document, a spreadsheet, an image file, a picture, a photo, JPEG, bitmap, GIF. So I'm just going to double click on that name, to add it to my upload manager here, Word documents, Excel spreadsheets. I'm going to click on Upload. So whatever documents that you don't have included in your forms library, whatever documents that you don't have included in your transaction file, you can upload them from your locally stored. If you're preparing forms in a different forms provider, if you can export those completed forms to PDF, you can upload them in to your signing. Get the documents that you need signed into your signing. Complete them online through your TransactionDesk account, upload them from your computer, fax them in from paper, get them into your online signing. Because the next step, clicking on Next, now we're going to prepare these forms for signatures and initials. We're going to go through and add in the required initial fields, the required signature fields. We're preparing these forms. We'll then deliver them. Authentisign will deliver them to our signing participants who will click to accept those signing blocks. So that's kind of the process here. This is kind of the preparation page, if you will. Starting from the left-hand side of the screen, the thumbnails. We have 3 pages of our thumbnails, 3 pages attached to this signing. Navigation tools will allow you to zoom in. I like the fit width. Kind of eliminates those margins. But the further you zoom in, the more you have to scroll. So you zoom in to the proper position that you will work best. So those are the navigation tools. There's some drawing tools as well. We can use these drawing tools to add some content to our signing document. The 2 that I find the most value with are the line annotation for little strike overs. So let's do this. Maybe I don't want that TBD123 on there. So I'm going to select this line draw. Now watch my mouse. See, it's an arrow right now up there by it. It's an arrow. When I scroll down onto the page, and it turns into a crosshair. I just click one time. I don't press and hold. I click once. It changes back into the arrow. And now I can take that and position it correctly to strike over or line draw through that feature. Because what I really wanted to do was type some text. Same top right corner, text annotation. Select that. Watch my mouse change as I come across the page. It turns into that crosshair. I click one time. It generates this text box. It's telling me that I need to double click in there to start typing. So we want to actually make it, I don't know, we'll make it 0701, something like that. So you can make those kind of little changes, micro adjustments. Whoops, I made a mistake. I just need to do a strike over and change that content. Make that adjustments. Use the drawing tools for those types of micro adjustments. More options. I can undo my last move. I can clear them all. So you might want to steer clear of clear, but you certainly can use it to wipe the page clean. We can exit from the wizard here. We can save our changes to this page. We could print it to paper if we wanted to abandon it altogether. So those are some more features there in those gears by more options. But now we want to talk about, again, right-hand side of the screen now, signing party. Top of the right-hand side, will is highlighted, so any signature or initial blocks or features, checkboxes, and so forth that I add in will be added in specifically for will. So let me scroll down here to the bottom of this. We see that there's initials here on all 3 pages. I'm going to scroll down these blocks, drag and drop blocks, because one at the bottom, and you may want to move it a little bit higher, but add initials to multiple pages. It's a nice way to get multiple initial blocks added to my multiple pages. So I'm going to select that action. It's going to give me some opportunities here to place at the bottom of the document, yes. Align it to the right, as we saw that those initials there are at the right. The seller is going to be who's going to be adding the initials for that seller, and to the exclusive right. Both pages, one of one, now we'll go with both pages. And I just always choose the median size block. You choose the large or small depending on your preference. I stick with the median. And add initials. All the way there, bottom center of the screen, adding initials. A nice way, especially if you have multi-page documents, instead of having to drag and drop those initials onto every page, you can use that multiple page. We just might have to place it into the appropriate section there. But again, add it in. I think that's the only one here on this page. Now we'll go to page 2. Selecting that from the thumbnails. We do have an initial block there. Maybe we didn't even need it because this is the signature page, but we'll leave it. Because now we want to add his signature for Will. Scrolling up on this a little bit. And this is a required signature, not optional, because that is an optional will give your signing participant the option to accept or decline that signature. Not really giving that option. If he wants to decline, he's going to reject the signing altogether. So I'm going to press and hold that signature block to drag and drop onto the page. Again, Will is going to be required to click to accept this this signature block. One thing I can also do, see how it calls for a time and date to be printed on the page there? I can select and then right mouse click, PC users right mouse click to yield this additional option menu. So I selected it. I know it's selected because it has the little squares around the perimeter. And then I use the right mouse button to yield this additional menu because I want to add a date block. Select that, and it adds my date block. Now here's the deal with adding the date block. In digital format, when the participant clicks to accept their signature, it's going to be time and date stamped. It's going to capture that content. It's going to capture the IP address that was used to click to accept that initial block. So it's captured within that key on the digital document. We add the date block, so if it's ever printed out, the date block will be printed to the page as well. So it's a little counterintuitive to me that you'd be printing out this type of digital document, but apparently it was enough of a concern that we added it in for that purpose. So that is the feature there to add the date block when you need that printed name field. All right, so I need to add myself in here as a signing too. I'm going to select myself as the signing party, top right corner. Now I'm highlighted, so any date block or any initial signature fields I add in will be for me. Click and hold to drag and drop. I'm going to put it over here. Authorized representative. Drop it in. And maybe we'll do the executed day right click, because I can move it up there, date block. I'm going to move it up here to that executed date field. So when I finish, when I click it, the final one, it will be time and date stamped when I, or the final signer, click to accept. So I can move that block anywhere it would be required on the page. So go through, add in your initials, add in your signatures. Again, the optional ones will give the signing participant the option. So if there are features of your contract where the seller does have an option to, maybe mediation is always a good one. They have the option to either accept or decline mediation. They need to initial it. If they accept it, if they decline it, then they won't initial it. That is when you would use the optional initial or signature block. So when they click on it, it's going to say accept or decline. They accept it. If they want to add their initial, they decline it if they do not want to add their initial. A couple other features here I want to speak to. The feature, the optional checkbox. The optional checkbox is the AND scenario. So when you have those multiple checkboxes on your page, that optional checkbox is the AND scenario. So you can add 5 checkboxes. Your signing participant can select any combination of the 5. 1 and 2 and 4, or 2 and 3 and 5. So it's the AND scenario. The radio buttons is the either or scenario. So you add the same 5 checkboxes, but your signing participant can only select one. Either or, 1 or 2 or 3. Not all of them or any combination, just one. So the radio buttons, the either or scenario, the checkbox, the AND scenario. So go through, use these initial and signature blocks, check marks, and full names to add those features to your signing. When we click on Next, the blue Next button at the top of the screen, we're leaving the preparation page and we're going to finalize this signing event. Remember, think of each signing as a unique event, because this could be the first event, getting that listing agreement signed. Second signing event may be a purchase contract or counteroffer. Maybe a third signing event is that counteroffer. The fourth signing event is signing off on the final settlement statement. And so you can have all these different signing events for one particular client or property. So we're going to finalize, we're going to go through, we're going to see the content that we've added so far. We can customize it, we can update email, we can, from the left side of the screen, go back to any of the steps of the wizard. We can customize the email message that's sent to our participant. We can make these adjustments. We still have an opportunity to make adjustments. We can re-access and continue to prepare our documents. We can upload more documents that need to be signed. Right now we're still in that preparation. When I finalize and send, clicking here, big thumbs up, ready to go, click. It's going to verify absolutely that I am ready to finalize and send, because what's going to happen is the documents themselves are going to be locked down. That's really the point. At this point, when I click on finalize and send, which I'm doing now, clicking there, finalize and send, the documents themselves are now locked. I can't add more signing documents to this signing event. I can't add more initials or participants to the signing event. This event is now locked and going to be delivered outbound to that first signing participant. Now I can go back and update an email address. I can go and resend the invitation to participate. So those adjustments can still be made to my signing. It's a big one, being able to adjust the date, or adjust the email address or something like that could be a very handy option. But otherwise, the documents themselves are locked down in Authentisign server. They are not able to be adjusted at this point. So let me pause my screen for a moment here. We're going to log in to our email account to see this invitation to participate. We'll see that first steps the participant will go through, and we'll see that first steps of that signing process. So unpause my screen here. Authentisign invitation to review and sign. There's the email message, and this is real time. So this is not staged by any means. This is real time. I kind of sink or swim by some of these features sometimes. So swimming right along here. Participant receives the email message. This is the inline signing, so only the first signing participant has received it. They click to sign. They go through this little authentication process. They are who they say they are. They agree to the terms of service. They generate a unique password that they will use if they need to re-access this signing at any time, if they want to come back and review the progress of the signing. Only they will know this password. So it's important that they remember the password that they put in. One nice feature, as we mentioned, these are single signing events. Authentisign will remember this user's profile by their email address, by their name attached to it. It will remember their profile. It will remember their password. It will ask them for it again, but they only have to do the terms of service once. They only have to create the password once, and that will be reused each time that email and name are found in unison to generate that that signing of event. So we're going to agree. They can agree the unique identity signature, approve the electronic representation, and that's where they can modify the signature. See, it's in blue. It's a link there just above their name, modify. They can click there, and they can choose a font style that will best represent their signature. They can update their contact information if they choose to, but my sense is most don't, and that they accept it. And you can see that the font style has changed. When they click to accept their signature blocks, that font will be applied. Confirm and accept. They've confirmed and accepted. They've generated a unique password. They've verified that the signature is a representative of their own handwritten signature, because there's no signing. They don't put a USB pen to page here and sign. They click to accept that signature, that initial. You can see here that they do have some of the same features in navigation, top left-hand side of the navigation, so they can zoom in or zoom out as appropriate. They do have the more options to view, to sign later, to decline, to print the paper, and so forth. So they can make those adjustments. Otherwise, they click on Start Signing. By clicking that, top right-hand corner, it's going to take us to the first signing item, and we click to accept it. And this is going to take us through these steps. Now, they're going to have an opportunity to come back and review. They can certainly review as they go along here. When they click to accept the signature, you can see that the time and date stamp is automatically added as well. They select all of their, they click to accept those initial and signature blocks. 0 items remaining to be clicked. If they're done, they can done accept all. Do they want to stay and review? They can continue to stay, make sure they read and reread and 3 times read that listing agreement to make sure that they understand the contract that they are signing is legal and binding and they understand all of the features. So once they have and they feel like they successfully read and understand, they can complete the signing, and they've now completed their portion. The signing in this sequence will now be released to that second signing participant who will go through the same steps. They are who they say they are, they create the unique password, and they go through. Now, if I do these all the time, Authentisign is going to remember my name and my email address, and all they have to do is type in my password, and I'll go right in. So it will save your profile in that way so that you can save some time when accessing that next unique signing event. But with that said, and time is of the essence, I do appreciate the opportunity to present. I do hope it was a benefit to you. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and re-raise this audio message, scrolling down. If you have questions, please don't hesitate to type them into that go-to training sidebar. It has collapsed against the right-hand side of your screen. That red block with a white arrow, you'll see it at the top right corner of your screen, that little go-to training sidebar. Click to expand it. Type your questions into the chat section of that go-to training sidebar. If that's all too much to work through, webinars at Instinet Solutions. You can email us anytime with questions, comments, or general observations. We will do our best to respond timely and appropriate to your questions to make sure that you're getting the highest and best use of your account. A couple features here, TransactionDesk.com/training. This may be the site that you use to access this webinar or sign up for it. We will be adding courses or sessions every week as we go forward. The other thing you can access through that link is our recorded content. So you have an opportunity to download and play back recorded sessions anytime you have interest or insomnia. You can download and play back. Full-length webinar sessions. YouTube.com is set up more for the how do I, the 1 to 5 minute how do I complete that specific action. So click by click, how do I steps to complete those specific actions. YouTube.com/Instinet webinars. If you've participated in a bunch of these webinars and you're like, yeah, you know, I could really use more one-on-one, or maybe my team or office could benefit from a tailored session to your time and the content that you want to cover, the remaining questions that you have, tungle.me/WebinarGreg is just for that. Free sessions that we can schedule, more interactive so we can both talk, listen, and speak as we go through the webinar session. Tungle.me/WebinarGreg is basically our online calendar so that you can access it and review times and days that would be convenient for you and submit those requests to us so we can tailor the sessions specifically for you, your team, the questions and content that you want to cover. So let us know how we can best assist. I will remain available for a few minutes to answer questions through that go-to training sidebar through the chat section. But until we webinar again, I hope that you have a tremendous, tremendous day.